Commissioned by Durham Book Festival, with support from New Writing North, Arts Council England, Durham County Council and Durham University. Writing the Missing, a River Cycle by Lisette Auton.
My name is Lisette Auton. I'm 40, white with freckles and long brown hair. I'm wearing a black sparkly top and I'm sitting in my study. I'm a disabled writer and activist. I do stuff with words. Let's begin with a provocation. 25% of people in the North East are disabled. Why do they not take up that cultural space? That's the basis for Writing the Missing, a river cycle, which I was commissioned to write for the New Writing North and the North East Culture Partnership's New Narratives of the North East project. That's the provocation I bring to you in this film. It's not only my voice. I've commissioned 3 incredible North East disabled artists to write and to perform in response to my river cycle. They are sitting in their studies too. You'll meet them soon. You'll know when it's their turn because they will introduce themselves. I'm proud to present spoken word artist Sarah Crutwell with Head Above Water, writer, director and theatre maker Bex Bowsher with Underground Stream, and playwright, screenwriter, activist and equality strategist Vici Wreford-Sinnott with Before There Was Ownership of Anything. 4 disabled women in the same piece becomes a political act. Now, more than ever, in this current world of phrases such as underlying health conditions and vulnerability, we need to take up space so we are not forgotten. Living and creating as a disabled person becomes a political act. I am not representative of all disabled voices. I don't want to be. There are myriad, eclectic, brilliant disabled voices all clamouring to be heard and platformed. Programme them, listen to them. Why should we think we are doing well if we tick the box? If we have one disabled voice and then go back to same old? New Writing North and Durham Book Festival read my provocation. They took it as a call to action and commissioned this film, giving me full creative control. Welcome to the power of disability arts, to access as a right which leads to creative freedom, innovation and wonder. I'll meet you at the river.
I am Lisette. I am voiceover. I am here to say there is a fast-flowing river in browns and bubbles, a wide expanse barricaded by cliffs and green tumbling trees to one side and a pebble beach on the other. The light is tired on an August morning. In a flowing river blue dress, I walk beside the river. My feet are bare. When water seeps underground, I will turn and face you. For now, I stare off into my past. Source 1 and water seeps underground.
Torn twixt tease and tine, I am river, I am sea, dialect lives in the bend, words rush in currents never breaking the surface. Breaking, broken, emerge now, become a missing. Image description. Young girl, freckles, blue corduroy dungarees, homemade bowl haircut, sits perched on a rock by the side of a full flowing river. Small, smooth pebble clutched in hand, wonders why her brain feels like it belongs to the river. Calls herself lazy, worthless fraud, unworthy of love and friendship, waste of space, burden. Image description. She slumps in her wheelchair, face pale and clammy. 12 minutes into the tribunal, the doctor halts it. Don't know why you're even here. Awards full disability living allowance. The girl, the woman, what is she now? Thinks that maybe they're lying, the whole world is lying, that she's lying, that she is full of river stones. Stones weigh you down, drown. Is the sea still there? If I can't check, does it still exist? Salt water runs through my ancestors to me. They are flung ashore, desiccating in the air. My brain is never to be trusted. Is any of this real? I was 21 at university, living hard, partying hard, when an insignificant, marginally elevated white blood cell count caused a seismic shift, and my life would never be the same again. And how I desperately fought, wailed, railed, broke myself again and again and again and again, trying to reclaim what was lost forever. Who was lost forever? From world's your oyster to here is the small box room in your parents' house. And here are the drawn curtains. And here is the silence. And here it is to be one of the missing. Here you will spend years.
Head Above Water by Sarah Crutwell.
I'm Sarah. I'm 5'3" and a p. I'm a white woman with purple hair tied back into a bun, and I look like I got dressed in a flea market. I spend a lot of time by rivers, open waters, coastlines, lots of spread toes, dangling ledges. I like the edge, the teeter at the top, don't care if I drop feeling. It's harder to walk away from some days. I missed a lot of school when I was younger, ill or honing acting skills to avoid bullies and the feeling of drowning in corridors. My dad would take me fishing. What's the difference between being sat ill indoors and sat ill outside? Freedom and fresh air, watching float, dip ripples, learning patience. Patience is needed. Some days waiting for my body and mind to feel my own is like waiting for the tide. And washing limbs brings hot springs of tears to eyes. I like to follow streams to the sea. Watch the current strengthen, build momentum when each droplet realises that together they can carve demands on rock face and erode cities with patience and persistence. My dog dashes waves and riots in rivers. I plant bare feet in dirt, enjoy the pain of poking pebbles, breathe through it rather than change my position. I've always felt the pull to wade deeper than safe. Now dog lead keeps me tethered. A friend says she keeps stones in her pockets. I think maybe they are crystals, because whether you believe in their healing power or not, it can be soothing to roll cold, smooth rock in pocket and breathe through the panic. Or maybe they are weights for walking into water. I tried once, or at least drove to the lake with that intention, but there was too many people. Didn't want to attract attention or worse, a saviour. So I cried on the banks while Samaritans rang engaged. Antidepressants keep me level, mostly, and fear of disappointing keeps legs kicking head above water. Doesn't mean some days I don't still hold my breath in the bath. Just means now I know it will pass, flow downstream, and I will keep planting feet in dirt, watching the water, building momentum. Rest when you need to. Push when you can. Keep planting your feet and state your demands.
I am Lisette. I am voiceover. I am here to say that I wear a top hat and a yellow paper moustache, a brown dress with perfect, expensive creases. I sit behind a table placed on the pebbles between you and the river. I tell you how it is.
The table.
There is no place at the table. The table is not accessible or of your making. You were not consulted when the meeting was held to purchase the table. The table that is high enough for wheelchair access, wide enough for BSL interpreters and PAs, was out of stock, and the deadline meant that we could not wait for it to be in stock. Did anyone know we should have bought that table?
Redacted.
The table was placed in a noisy building with steps, no hearing loop, no funding for audio description and bright white flashing lights. Please come to the table and tick boxes and leave. We are gathering your comments about the table. Please provide comments about the table. We have taken on board your comments about the table. There is no budget, will, need, legal requirement to change the table. Delete as appropriate. The table box has now been ticked. Comments about the table have been assessed by those who bought the table. The time for consultation has now passed.
Underground Stream by Bex Bowsher.
I'm Bex Bowsher. I'm a white 30-year-old woman with blonde hair pulled back into a messy bun. I'm wearing a dark blue shirt and red lipstick. Lost in the dark, with the knowledge that absolutely no one in the world knows where I am. Like Alice following the rabbit down the hall, all of a sudden I'm trapped in a combative land with no relief. My allies and my enemies reverse, and the world gains a level of threat that would just dissipate if I could just realise where I am. The water ebbs, flows, ebbs, peaks, troughs. I was lost for a long time, except my rabbit hole was a coal mine, and the rabbit, a history of all those women that had trodden the path rutted before me that I had no reason to question. There is no alternative. Roiling rush of river ramming against riverbank. And so, by the creek that bubbles underground, I stand. The water, I'm told, bursts out into light and life many miles hence. The oppressive fuel presses me from all sides, flattening with the weight of history and toil, and of workers lost and dead. The lives that could have been do not exist in this place. The lives that might have been lived have no place within the earth, for the earth is, and the earth continues its pressure and its turning and its movements, despite the damage inflicted upon it by our endeavour. Flow bolsters the sand against what comes next. I'm not always alone. At times others catch up with me, also following the trickle of hope out of the darkness. But she is better prepared for this journey. Maybe she's stronger or better equipped. Maybe her body is built for this journey in a way that mine seems not. Mostly she bursts past, barely registering my existence in her own forward march. Sometimes she nods an acknowledgement, but not quite an encounter, before helping herself to the cool water of the brook and continuing her journey onward. Still others stop to talk with me, maybe even rest for a while. But then she continues restless. My pace is too slow for her to maintain, and ultimately she leaves. They all leave. Polluted water, polluted with our history in carrying our future, life and or death held within a cupped hand, poised to touch parched lip. My own journey continues its lonely and meandering way. To bend and drink from the flowing water requires energy I do not possess. I lick moisture from the stalactites that grow around me. My constant companion is my own imagination and my own white rabbit. The lure that pulled me into the path in the first place. The child that never was returned to her place amongst the stars. She never abandons me. Not quite. The child from the heavens sings her sweet music, ruining me with her promises of love and life and light. And I know that what she tells is only a part truth. Once I reach the light, that is not the end of the darkness. And yet, I allow myself to be nourished by the thought. A pinprick ahead. My nervous system, often an enemy, has signals that leave an awful lot of accuracy to be desired. And yet, even as I lumber forward, the light grows and illuminates the world that surrounds me. The once black and chalky walls reveal a sparkle that could not exist in the depths of blackness. The water itself runs silver through the ground. The light speaks secrets of gentle warmth and life long abandoned on my journey. I dare to hope that freedom may at once and finally be mine. My feet pick up a speed that I did not know they possessed, and yet, as I surge forward, the light seems at once to float away. A firefly, perpetually beating out of grasp. I surge, it retreats. I surge, I surge, I surge. And yet, and yet, and yet. The journey is not ended. The star child has not finished her song, and I realise I am not just a prisoner of the journey, but of the child that never was, of the life that never was, and the river never was. And as I pull these things into my chest, the history, the child, the glitter and the darkness, the things that are and never were, that make my world the chalky blackness and drops of moisture on a parched tongue, I realise I am layered. I am formed under pressure and heat and time. I am of the very rock I try to escape. I never was the creature that I imagined. I never was.
I am Lisette. I am voiceover. I am here to say that I stand on the table between you and the river. I wear my grey dressing gown, my purple Dr. Marten boots. I lean upon my purple perspex stick. I am height. I am power. I am softer when I sit cross-legged. Get closer. I have an invitation for you. Droplets bigger, heavier, and towards the sea.
How do we grow in strength? How do we bring together battle-weary old-timers with new blood upstarts? How do we share our past, learn, listen, grow? Do we have the strength to begin again? To begin? Water seeps underground, water becomes river, river becomes sea, endless cycle. How do we say, you are wanted, you are important? How do multiple tributaries find the same riverbed? There are whispered beginnings. North-East disabled artists, after years of isolation, are coming together. They have come together. It has already happened. One tributary is named Disconsortia. We grow in strength, we keep control. We are a collective. There is no collective noun for river. We will create, make, paint, perform, devise, sing, invent a collective noun for river, which will be subtitled, BSL interpreted and audio described. We watch for allies to flow alongside, add strength, not interrupt our course. We are carving out land. streams converging, river, estuary, mouth, sea. We are making our own table, and we will invite you to it on our terms. You will be welcome.
Before There Was Ownership of Anything by Vici Wreford-Sinnott.
I'm a tall white woman in my 50s with teal hair, a spotty scarf to match, and I'm wearing a black top. Long before there was ownership of anything, even stories, before history, before empire, there was land and sea and river and tree, streams and becks full of stickleback tails. Bare legs caught them in tin cans on sticks to share with people on Durham Moor. Mother Time, a tree like a grandmother clock on the banks of the river, marked moments in a civil rights movement as it rolled on. Histories washed by, some of them stopping, knowing their place, feeling proud to stand on the promontory. Others misfitting in shadowy ripples below the surface. Mother Time has roots long strung, wrapped around scree, saving stragglers like me. Above the land and rolling river, our collective psyche lies. To look at empire is to look again at everything which grew from it, on which our collective psyche lies. A disabled woman, I am a narrative of the northeast, carefully stored in the bin bag dust at the back of the cupboard. Teenage punk fury in my 50s, I turn to the page where I am written, which reveals where our collective psyche lies. Centuries old erosion. Our collective psyche lies. Disability arts in the northeast. Nothing died, it didn't end, it isn't lost. Access was denied. Magpies, 7 for a secret to be completely mistold. Access denied. I am neither lost nor found, but many precious heartbeats were given over years to make a case to exist. We have travelled for 34 years on a life raft of our own making. Vibrant streams of life and art. Lawnmowers, big sextet, get off our backs weren't feckless. Cabarets were packed into community centres when theatres wouldn't have us. Fugitives rocked equality. Shelf life looked at shortened life. Mimosa by the 3 rivers shook the system. We stormed the sage, a procession of divine disabled divas. Pauline was hanging around for a man with a pulse. Shane proclaimed the last avant-garde. Simon captured motion disabled, and Aidan showed us inside out. Deborah performed woman. Julie Mack told us pigtails. Gobskewer was talking, tattooing Lorca. And at the foot of the steps where she couldn't get in, Lindsay gave out flowers with copies of her poem. All of us shouting about the change we needed to see. And yet, there is a gap. Just because you can't see us doesn't mean we aren't here. Little Cog, Full Circle, Disconsortia and many more disabled artists roar. The men from Culture HQ wore different glasses when they were talking to me than the ones they wore when they were speaking to big chiefs from big buildings. The collection has no public value. Bigger organisations are better placed. It's identity politics. We don't do that. Empire structure says you must make your case. Precious, finite heartbeats. It's on repeat. I find a nutshell from Mother Time. Inside there is a tiny little note, ink etched on parchment, which says, "You're doing it again, aren't you? Explaining that thing about collective psyche, myths and misunderstandings?" I put my dignity on hold. It's not your fault. How could you have known? Another little nutshell lands on my head with a thump. You're doing it again, aren't you? The past you may never see. As Mother Time ticks on, individualism is prized over collective. Gurus, heroes and saviours are appointed and self-anointed. New systems to divide. We are not old school, we are not victims, and we didn't fail. Fury forms on the surface, dismissed, dismissing. Well, our stories are fire, and that is what is missing. A long hard look at empire is well overdue. It's time to tear down HQ.
I am Lisette. I am voiceover. I am here to say I can now look you in the eye. I can be bold, fast, jerky flow and own this riverbank, the pebbles on which I walk. I am a changed woman to the one you first met. After I have given you no apologies, you will find me standing in the river, water rushing, dress flowing. Source 2, and water becomes river.
Torn twixt tease and tine, I am river, I am sea, dialect lives in the bend, words rush in currents never breaking the surface, breaking, broken, emerge now, I am a missing. Image description, woman, freckles, black sparkly dress, purple Dr. Marten boots spotted with ladybirds, sits in front of a spellbound audience, purple stick resting against her thigh, small smooth pebble in pocket, knows why her brain belongs to the river. Sign name, Freckles. Image description, lies there. It is not night. It is not a choice, it is not pleasant, it is maintenance of body and mind, and she gives into it, and it carries her like the current. Girl, woman, freckles, who she is now, knows that the world is lying, the whole world is lying. While she is lying there, the it is full of river stones. Stones weigh you down. Drown. Stones skim. Stones contain old bones. Stones can hold your own bones. Stones stack up, wedge, open, throw, splosh. Stones are a stepping stone. Stones are a canvas. Even if I can't check, the sea still exists. Salt water flows from my ancestors to me. They are far from shore, dancing in tides. My brain is never to be trusted. My brain carves out rivers, carves out land. It is a useful river. It is an old man river. Brains less disordered than mine become trapped once they've carved out a valley. My brain zooms into hyperfocus, makes minute hyperspeed connections, zooms back out to hyper widescreen, makes hyper-reactivity stepping stones from my own hyperbole, hyper-energetically gushes towards the sea. Is any of this real? Does it matter? No apologies. Become the person that you were always meant to become should not take years and years and years and years of hiding, of being scared, of not accepting this strange and wonderful new you, of cowering from it, of wishing to be gone, of being a missing, feeling like a failure for not fighting harder, stronger, longer, when all you had to do all along was just follow the flow. The arts is a reflection of self, of the world, but if you don't see people who look like you, How do you know that you were meant to dive in? How do you know that the words that you must ink into existence, write upon stepping stones, will find a home if there is no place that says, here, this is where you will begin? I found a beginning. By chance, by serendipity. I was lucky. I will not let others be unlucky. There should be no luck. There should be joyous opportunity and welcome. Tell us your access needs. We will meet them today. Because my story is one of power and quiet and rage and torrent. You should want to hear it. Because our stories are stories of power and quiet and rage and torrent. You should want to hear them.
Writing the Missing, a River Cycle by Lisette Auton. Produced, directed, written and performed by Lisette Auton. Filmed and edited by Rob Irish. Commissions written and performed by Sarah Crutwell, Bex Bowsher, Vici Wreford-Sinnott. Interpreted by Sue Lee at Becoming Visible. Commissioned by Durham Book Festival, with support from New Writing North, Arts Council England, Durham County Council and Durham University.